Is it? It's a little close to the back edge of the stage. Maybe we should.
That would be beautiful if
Just
I
don't
went.
move. Okay, are we recording? Okay, thank you. All right. Well, good morning, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to Real Moms. We are here. It was a delicious breakfast. Thank you so much for bringing breakfast this morning. And we don't normally do this on Thursdays, but we are recording today for our moms who are at home. In case you didn't know, we have an online moms group who watches our teaching, and then they meet on Zoom and talk about it. So it's been really great for people who work and people who weren't comfortable coming in person just yet, and they found really great community that way. And so they asked me months ago if when we did the panel, if we could record both days. So they said, hey, we want to hear what every mom has to say. So we're recording today. And so because of that, we're using microphones. Because if we just talk, the sound won't pick up, the recording won't pick up what you're saying. So we're using microphones today, and I have two mics for the three of you to share. And then if you have questions or if you have ideas to share, I'll just come around with the microphone, and I'll let you speak into the mic so that everybody can hear it. So yay, that's what we're going to do. Well, I'm just going to go ahead and pray for us before we get started. Father God, thank you for Real Moms. Thank you that we are here again today, that we made it, even with new babies and lots of other things happening in our lives, Lord. I just pray that you would be here in this place today and that you would speak through each one of the moms as they share their experiences and their wisdom. Lord, my prayer is that each mom here would walk away encouraged and with maybe one thing that they want to remember for someday or for today. I praise you for this food and this time we have together in Jesus' name. Amen. Well, here at Real Moms, we always have a goal, or that we don't give you a list of things to do. So we don't want you to feel like today, like you're going to go home and you have this to-do list. Oh, I need to do that, and I need to do that, and I need to do that, and I need to do that. So we have moms here today on a panel, and they're going to be sharing experiences and ideas and tips. But hopefully you can take that, and if it's something that sounds good to you, maybe you can implement it. But I don't want you to walk away feeling like you have to do all these things, because that is not our intent at all. And I will tell you, I came to Real Moms for 12 years before being on staff here, and having the panel of moms was one of my favorite days, always. And I can remember times, and as they were talking yesterday, I kept thinking of, oh yeah, I remember one time somebody said something, and you might hear something today that you're in the midst of, and you're like, oh, thank you, Lord, that's just what I needed. I'm going to go right home and do that. Or you might hear something that you're going to tuck away, and maybe when your child is 5 or 10 years older, you might remember that and bring it out. So there's a spot to take notes if you want to. This video will be available online, as well as a video from yesterday. So you could always come back to that, refer back to that, and use that information later. So that's what we're going to do. So our title of our panel today is Real Moms with Really Good Ideas. And we thought that we would kind of focus on 3 general topics. And a lot of these are from the surveys that I heard, things I heard from you that you wanted us to talk about. And so we're going to talk about parenting tips, pointing our families to Jesus, and then also mom hacks, just general tips and tricks and things that maybe you have heard of, maybe you haven't heard of. So several things today. And after each topic, I'll ask for questions, or I'll give a space to let you ask questions, and also share. If there's something that's really working great for you, for your parenting or in your home, then you can share that with the group too. So, you want mom hacks? I know. Do you need some note paper to write things down, Cassie? Awesome. So we'll just start out by introducing ourselves. So friends, could you just tell us about yourself and your kids' ages and your family? And we'll start that way.
There's your mic. You got it. Okay. All right. Hi, I'm Jennifer Ayers. I'm so glad. It's an honor to be here. I haven't met you. I volunteer on Wednesday, so it's nice to see new faces, and what an honor. I've been attending Grace since the inception, since the idea of Grace Church started back at Faith Church, the mothership. So, and my husband is the teaching pastor. We have 3 kids and 8 grandchildren. Our oldest, our son is 46 almost, and his wife is 36. They have 4 kids in Wheaton, Illinois. Next is Emily. She's 43, and she just had her first baby in August. He's a lovely boy, fun boy. Just started to crawl. Woo! We got to see them last week. And then we have Elizabeth, and she has 3 girls. She and her husband, Carl, are 40, and they have 3 girls, 9 and 6-year-old twin girls. And I have all kinds of thoughts about when they found out the twins were girls. He said, we're screwed with 3 girls, but they are feisty. But anyway, they live far away, and they're independent. My husband reminds me that they're independent, and when I miss them, because but they're happy, very happy where they are, fun places. Yeah.
I'm Heather. Is this on? Okay. I have 3 kids. They are almost 11, 9, and almost 7. So this is their last few weeks of all being at the same school in the same phase of life, and I've become aware of the fact that that's all going to change soon, which is kind of weird to think I'll have a middle schooler. But yep, I've got the 3 kids. My husband and I have been married 15 years in June, and I choose to just be a stay-at-home mom right now. I love just being available, and I love doing stuff like this and serving, and my days are full all the time. It's like I have a job.
Oh, and we gotta share the mic.
And what? Oh, yeah.
I'm Cassie, and I have 3 children as well. I have 11-year-old twin girls, so I get that we're screwed thing. And I have a little boy who is 8. And we also are in that last stage where they're all at the same school, because my girls will be starting middle school next year. And my husband and I have been married for 14 years in June. So.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. And I'll just point out that all of these lovely ladies are my friends and serve on our Real Moms team. And so Jennifer said she's here on Wednesdays, and as well as Linda Quigley and Amy Osgood and a couple other friends here and there. But I just want to point that out because they're here, they're around, they're part of our team, they have a heart for moms, and they're probably going to be here next week and again and again. So if you want to talk to them later, you absolutely are welcome to, ask a question today, or if you think of something later, they'll be around. So let's start off talking about parenting. What are your best parenting ideas? Either parenting in general, or I think we said a couple of different people mentioned maybe discipline ideas or other tips. What do you got, friends?
No, I do have to jot my thoughts down. I can remember when I was pregnant with my first, and he was due to be born in just a few weeks, and I had that moment of like, okay, I've been babysitting for a long time, but I do not know what I'm doing. How am I going to raise a child and do it well? And God met me in that moment and gave me some scripture out of 1 Kings, which is when Solomon has become king, and he comes to God, and God basically says to him, all you have to do is ask me for wisdom. That's it. And that was so comforting to me, because even though that was, thousands of years ago, he's still that same God, and I felt like that was the message he had for me, which was, all you have to do is ask, and I'll help you. And that has followed me. I'm 11 years in, and something will come up, and he will remind me of that. And it has worked. I feel like he has given me the words that I need to talk to my kids, or he has given me an idea about discipline, because I don't feel like there's a right answer for discipline, because they're all different. But if I rely on that advice of just ask me, and I will give you what you need, then it always seems to work out.
So I think I've always joked as a mom, because I tend to like inject humor into situations where I feel awkward. So I've always joked like it's my job as a mom to make other moms feel really good about themselves based on my kids. And I say that jokingly. But my girls have ADHD, and they have it very significantly. And so parenting them has been a big challenge. They are amazing women. They are beautiful, amazing women. But I have fought for them, and I have fought tirelessly to make sure that they get what they need. But when you raise kiddos that are different than what you think they're going to be, you have to think outside of the box with your parenting, and you have to be willing to shift and to constantly change how you interact with them and how you love them. And so the thing that I have learned is to, and it sounds really cliche, but I was raised so conservatively where this is what kids needed to be like. Didn't matter who they were. This is what they needed to be like. So my journey with my girls has taught me, and with Cooper too, my son, because he's obviously a person as well, but to get to know my kids, to learn them, to listen to them. We do have hard and fast rules that they're not allowed to disobey. There's things, but also the way that I interact with one of my girls who is incredibly sensitive and internalizes everything is very different than how I interact with my other girl who's funny and sarcastic, and she probably will insert humor into the situations that are awkward because that's who she is. But like Heather was saying, there's not a right way to parent because you are a person, your children are people, and so getting to know them and loving them well in your parenting, I think, is the biggest gift that you can give to them. And it's not perfect. And like I was telling Kara, we had a really hard week this week. My kids were nuts. And I've yelled at them like 4 or 5 times. Sometimes they deserved it and they needed that jolt. And other times I had to go back and apologize. And especially to my sensitive one, I was like, babe, I'm sorry. I was harsher with you than I should have been. My other one, it probably wouldn't have even phased. But with that one, I knew I was too harsh. So I think my thing is just, it's a beautiful journey getting to know your children and meeting them where they are and appreciating them where they are, not for what you think they should be.
And Cassie, I'll echo that too. That's a really good point that they're not all the same. What works for your first kid may work for the second one, may not.
Well, and like my girls are identical twins. They are literally the same genetics. They're very different people and they respond to everything very differently, and I have to treat them as such.
I think this past week it was because of the full moon. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, my first 2 were a boy and a girl, and Jacob was perfect. He was like no problem in delivery, napped. He was just this complacent little boy, and then our second one, I did this yesterday, came out with her fist in the air like I'm in control. She napped 20 minutes, but I do like, wait a minute, they're babies, so they're supposed to do the same thing. Oh my gosh. I didn't say this yesterday because I think we jumped into like, I don't know, between 4 and 11-year-olds, but my very first advice is to nap when babies nap. Nap when, don't worry about your what your apartment or home looks like. Nap. You got to have the rest. Put a book on tape on, or let them watch a little half an hour. After my kids were grown, we decided to have 3 instead of the 6 that I dreamed of having. But I nannied, and I would take my earring out, that was not a dangly, poke it right here, and lie down when those babies that I was nannying napped. And I thought, oh, I'm going to get caught. But they didn't care. I was a really good nanny. But I had to have that 20 minutes. And still to this day, I go, Lord, can I have 20 minutes? Just, 20 minutes in the afternoon, because I'm old and I need a nap. But
I nap every single day.
But that care for yourself is so important. My other thing is to encourage and not criticize, to affirm and not shame. Shame just mixes up things so badly. My husband, I was, lost my family when I was 13. My dad and brother and uncle were killed in an airplane accident. My mom had a lot of mental trouble after that. I was pretty much raising myself. My husband and I met each other at North Central High School and started hanging out. I became a Christian through Young Life, which saved me. But both he and I realized we were raising ourselves. His parents were going through a horrible divorce, and there was so much sarcasm and shame in both of our lives. I did not receive it from my parents at all. My mother had not a sarcastic bone in her body, and I always kind of criticized her for being a little, like slow-witted, like, Mom, come on with the quips. I realized that I'm like that too as I got older. But he had a mom who would, pick at everything. You've got something on your shirt. You've got your mouth smells. To the dentist, she would say, "Can you do something?" This 10-year-old boy, for this bad breath. And even as when he would preach in big church, she would come up afterwards and criticize him over something. So those things actually have been bubbling up this last year, and I knew that they would sometime, but those things that you say to your kids, you can apologize for them. Cassie touched on it. You can apologize, but and shame to each other, you and your husband, or you and your partner. Never shame in public, and never shame. Apologize if you do. It has no place in our lives. Not that anyway, I could go on about that one. But.
This is a segue. This is something that came up. Grandparents are crucial. Maybe it's not grandparents. Maybe it's an uncle, an aunt, somebody. My grandmother spent a lot of time with me as I was growing up, and she absolutely formed the character that I am today. And she passed away when I was in high school, but I like to think that I'm like her, and that's because she poured so much into me. She was authentic with her own faith, and she was fun. Now, it wasn't until I turned 30 that my mom explained to me that she and my grandma did not have a good relationship. They did not get along. She couldn't stand her. She was critical. I never knew that until I was 30. She didn't color the image that I have of my grandma because she wanted me to have a good relationship with her. And that's so hard because we don't get to pick our mother-in-laws or our father-in-laws. And some days I don't like mine, just being honest. But I try really hard to stay out of that and not push that on my kids because I want them to love their grandparents. The more people in their lives that love them, the better off they're going to be, and I should not get in the way of that. That was a random tip I thought of.
Random tips. That's good. Thank you, Heather.
Yeah, so good.
Any other general parenting type ideas?
When you were talking about forgiveness, I had a conversation with someone. We were kind of just saying, like, how are we going to do this better than our parents did? And he had pointed out that he thought the difference was being willing to apologize. There's something about the generation of parents that we had, they didn't do that very often. It was just kind of a like, okay, I get a feeling that she realized she messed up, but we're just moving on. We're not going to talk about that. We're just moving on. And he said, I think the difference is that we're going to be willing to apologize to our kids, and that's going to have an impact on them that helps us to have a healthy relationship moving forward. So I do think that being willing to apologize is crucial, for sure.
And we're going to make mistakes. We all have. Like, I have shamed my children in my anger, and that is wrong. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that apologizing and realizing that they are a person and giving them that dignity is huge. Huge.
Anybody have any questions about anything they said or just anything else parenting related? Or maybe you have an idea or a tip that is amazing and you want to share it. Lauren does.
So this is specifically for Cassie, but feel free, you two, to share if you have an answer. So we had a conversation about how I think that my daughter has ADHD as well. And I have her in play therapy, and we've been trying to do like the techniques that were taught there. But in the moment when she's like escalating and very mad and having like all that rage, she just does not want to do it. Like I can't get her to. So I was just wondering if you have any techniques that worked for you, like when your daughters were being dangerous or like destructive, or just like really need to just chill out and control their emotions, because we had a very bad week too.
So physiologically, what your daughter is doing is she's going into fight or flight. And when a child is in fight or flight, they cannot reason rationally. So there is no way that they can use those techniques in that moment. So what we found with our daughters is, and this is what worked for us, is we had to medicate them because it was so significant that they could not exit fight or flight. To use those executive functioning skills, that decision-making, impulse control, they couldn't use any of that because they were in constant fight or flight. Now, your daughter might not be that way. So it might be that you tell her, you give her a safe place where she can go feel her emotions, and then you can talk with her after. Because she's still really young, and with ADHD, those skills, those emotional regulation skills, are developing 3 to 5 years behind. So if she's a 5-year-old, her emotional regulation could be that of a 1 or a 2-year-old. And so giving them the grace to understand that her brain literally cannot regulate, but also giving yourself the space to separate, because in that moment, we can't, like, they look like they should be able to emotionally regulate, but they can't. So we gave our girls a calm down zone. So they had an area where I would say, go calm down. And they could scream and cry. You could put a pillow there so they can punch it, get it all out. And then I would go to them and I would say, okay, what do you think you could have done? And that would make them think, okay, I could have done this, thought this, and this. If they haven't quite reached the total crazy zone, you can try the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 with the senses. Tell me 5 things you see, 4 things you smell, 3 things you taste, which is kind of weird because usually boogers is one of them if they're crying. 2 things you hear, 1 thing you feel. But that gets them outside of their bodies. But if they're in that, we both know what that looks like, where they're completely gone. You have to give them that space because they cannot rationally reason in the moment. And then you do everything you can for your kiddo, and then sometimes medicine is the answer. It is not for every kid, and I'm a I used to be a teacher, so like I see where it's really necessary and I see where it's not. For my kids, that's what we needed in order for them to use the skills that we were giving them. But we went through a lot of counseling and a lot of stuff in the interim to get to that point to figure out that that's what they needed.
I was going to say, good on you for just identifying it and being willing to take the steps to move forward. Remember that counseling is your friend, and it doesn't always have to be a specific medical diagnosis or label. I have a kiddo who just deals with shame is a natural feeling for him, and he has a lot of anger about it. And so he's in counseling. He's been in counseling for a year, and he goes once a month for a tune-up, just to have a safe space to talk about things that have been happening. He's 6. And I think that a lot of times we think, well, we just need to be able to handle this. But counseling is our friend, and there's no shame in helping our kids. That's only going to help him down the line.
It's part of your village. When
Yeah.
you say your doctor, like that's all part of your village. It doesn't necessarily have to be a bunch of moms.
Just your mom.
Like God has given gifts to these people. Like that's part of your village, and that's okay.
Yeah, thank you, Cass. I don't know if that came through, but Cassie said that's part of your village. Like your counselor can be part of your village that it takes to raise a child. That's really wise. And it's the body of Christ. You know, that's why we're here. That's why we have each other at Real Moms, right?
And my friend used to always say, I'm sure we're going to send our kids to counseling eventually. They're going to have to go to counseling because of us. But as long as they know that I loved them and that Jesus loves them, then I'm going to say I did a good job.
And we're done. No, I'm just kidding. Did somebody have a question? Any other questions? All right, let's move on to the next topic of pointing our families to Jesus. What kind of things have worked for you, or maybe there's something you tried that didn't work, that have to do with showing our kids who Jesus is, or leading towards Him, or something about Jesus in our homes?
I wrote to our 3 children and asked them what they remembered. I said, I don't think we did. You know, and they're 3 different states, they're 3 different ages, and I knew they'd be honest. And my complacent Jacob wrote this beautiful thing about, no, they wrote, and then I added, and discipline, reconciliation, no, what did you say? Discipline and / what was in the question?
I don't remember. Discipline.
Reconciliation, or
Did we say reconciliation?
see,
I'm not sure. But their answers were good. I heard this yesterday.
so Jacob, our oldest, said he didn't remember flashcards or memory verses, but we sang a lot of songs, and he remembers all his Sunday school teachers. He remembers all of his youth group workers, and he remembers the people that we had around him. We were in a small group that was multi-generational, which I highly recommend, so that you can, get advice and watch the people who have gone before you. And some of them even have babysitting aged children to help you. But that being in a small group like that and a church environment was very helpful to him. And he said, and that's why we've chosen the church that we've chosen in Wheaton to give the same things to our kids. So I was like, yes, we did something right. And then then the other one jumped to discipline, and Jacob said the best thing was throwing the lightsaber at Elizabeth's head to settle that argument. She's 40 years old. She has this scar right here from the lightsaber. And then they corrected each other as to where exactly it was. Was it the stairs? Was it the balcony? Was it? Yeah. And Emily, our middle child, said, I should have had it up here to read, but showing us how God loves us, showing us how you love each other and you loved us, is what led us to faith in God and being, she said, patient, the word patient, which I didn't get at all, but loving, humility, and patience. So those gifts of the Spirit that you're praying about, that I was praying about, that I was trying to live, really was something that they noticed. So that was such an honor to hear that from our kids.
Isn't it interesting how your kids picked up on the different things? It wasn't the same thing that you did. It was, yeah. And Heather, I don't know if you feel this, but we're at the stage right now where our kids are all getting older, and so I feel like we're having to be a little bit more intentional because they're starting to create their own habits. And I've struggled against growing up in a church where outwardly what you did was more important than what was going on inside. And so for the longest time, I struggled when they were really little to even want to say spiritual kind of things to them because I didn't want them to think that it was just about what you said. That was my own issue I had to work through. But for us, I have a lot of conversations with them because they're getting older. They're hearing things at school or they're noticing things in friends, and we talk about what God wants from us or how God created us to be or what God's heart is. And when we talk about their behavior to other people, we talk about how does God want you to treat them? Or what do you think God feels about that? Trying to get that just even in their minds. And we do quiet time with them at night, which is always crazy because the girls' medicine is worn off. And so, I don't know what is sinking in, but we make it consistent, and we have a kids' devotional that we go through as a family, and we make them pray. I don't know if it's going to work or not. I don't know if that's a good idea to make them pray. I have no idea. I don't know, but this is what we do. Sometimes their prayers are super beautiful, and sometimes they're ridiculous. And we have to go, guys, remember who you're talking to. But I'm trying to pull Advent into Christmas, and we do the resurrection eggs at Easter. So I'm just trying to pull their minds back to Jesus anytime I can. And then in the morning, Blake and I have quiet time, and sometimes the kids come down. And again, it's before medication, so it's always a little crazy. But even this morning, I told one of my girls came down. She's like, Mom, watch this. And she's sliding under the counter. And I was like, babe, this is Daddy and I's quiet time. You can be down here with us, but you have to have a Bible. So she went and got her kid's Bible. Cooper went and got his kid's Bible and sat with me. And they at least are seeing that it's something that's important. But again, I have no clue if that's the right answer because I don't know yet. I don't drink coffee anymore. This is tea.
It's tea.
Yeah. Yeah. So I just don't know. I mean, my kids are old enough to ask. I love that.
Yeah.
I hope that someday I can say, what was it that meant a lot to you? But I don't know.
Well,
that's just what we do.
I'll add that yesterday Amy was here, and her kids are in their early 20s.
Yes.
And she shared that one of the things that, I don't know if both or one of her kids said, is that they really remember those family prayer times at bedtime. They did that as a family, and those were great memories that her kids had. And something else that you said, Amy said as well, Cassie, that she said bringing them to church, doing the Bible study with them, it just was their normal. Right. And that became their part of life. And so her kids, seeing those things, who are older, took that as this is their normal. This is just what you do. This is how you live as a Christian. And so some of the things they're just seeing and absorbing as well, based on what we are doing. And I'll also add that Linda said yesterday, one of the most important things we can do for our kids is work on ourselves. And you're all here. So that's yay, you're doing it. You're here. You're learning and growing yourself as well. And that's another one of those things that the kids will see. And you might have an opportunity to talk with them about what you're learning and what you're working on. And those conversations will come, and at different ages and different phases, but that's important too.
And can I clarify, we don't do it every night, and there's some nights where they say family devotions and they're all in bed, and I'm like, nope, sorry guys, too late. So this is not, please hear me when I say this is what we're trying to do. This is our intention is to be consistent with it. Last week was Indie Kids Seal Week. I didn't get up any days to have devotions because I was too tired. So God is full of grace, and we should be full of grace with ourselves as well. You do what you can for your kids and pray a lot.
Yeah. I turn off after 9 o'clock. Ainsley told me this week that Daddy's nice at night and I'm nice during the day. And it's probably true. Yeah, it's probably true. For me, so the antidote for a shallow faith is authenticity. And I've learned that, and I've lived it. And I want to be sure that my kids are seeing authentic faith, and the way that I do that is by being authentic myself. So when Dave was here, trying to help you guys figure out what your heart beats for, that work is so valuable. Because once you figure that out, then you get to be brave and you get to live it out, and then your kids get to see miracles happen. And that's when faith becomes real to them. So I have figured out that my heart beats for lonely people who don't feel like they have a person or a people in their life, and specifically for immigrants and making people feel welcome. And so over 11 years, I've got to live it out in many different ways. Obviously, we went to London for a couple of years as missionaries. I don't know what kind of impact that's going to have on my kids in the future, but right now it seems like it was pretty good. We started a boys group with the purpose of my boys who are already, faith-living people to invite boys from their class who don't have anyone to play with at the playground. And we are currently fostering children from the border who are immigrants and don't have anywhere to go. So I'm not telling you that to make myself feel better. I'm telling you that God will honor your bravery in living out the way that he called you to live. And the impact is not just for you or the person that you're blessing. It's for your kids too, to watch how he moves, that he is real, that he is active in our lives. And that's contagious to them, because then they want that too, and they see it and they feel it and they find it for themselves. So do the hard work now to find out what your heart beats for, even when you're stuck changing diapers and nursing and filling in PRN as a nurse or whatever. Do the hard work now, because they're watching all the time. And authenticity is so important.
Oh, can you say that into the mic?
It helps them see that the world doesn't revolve around them, because that's just a natural kid tendency. And so when you are giving of yourself to other people or to your passions then a lot of their stuff has to be put on hold sometimes. And that is good for them. They don't think it is, but it's good for them.
We also made it a point to serve together. And my husband and I have been to Haiti a couple times and are close with the ministry down there. So when our kids turned 5, we got them brothers and sisters. And so we chose specifically an organization that we could be in communication with, not one that was like far removed, that you just knew your money was going somewhere, but you knew nothing about the kid you were sponsoring. And so each of them at 5 had a brother or sister that was the same age as them. And they understand that every month money is going to their brother or sister to help them go to school, to have medical care, to have food. And then also this organization allows you as sponsor families to come, starting from the age of 10, to have you and your kids come and actually serve and meet your kids. Now, we haven't done that yet. COVID has thrown everything off. But there are really simple ways to keep your kids mindful of the fact that they are so blessed and that they need to be aware of things going around. So that's a simple way that you could kind of get their mind thinking in that direction.
I was thinking of the ways that the way I was raised was in a Presbyterian church. It was very formal. Everyone dressed up. You didn't wear jeans to church. It was very relaxed in some ways, but there was the liturgical service, but I think the biggest thing was everyone dressed up. And when that anyway, I'm going to include this. When that big tragedy hit my family, my dad was a very well-known OBGYN, and my uncle was a very well-known pediatrician, and they were just well-loved in the community. So tons of people filled Second Presbyterian Church. It's massive. And I got this phobia about everyone watching me, because they were. And so being super, super sensitive about how I looked, because I had to, maintain that everything's fine and everything's cool. And then I had to change schools, and, that continued. But when I became a mom and my kids were old enough to, sit in church sometimes, they didn't want to go to Sunday school. Tim said, don't worry about what Emily's the kind of wild one who's like me. I say wild, that's just unique. Not wild, but yes. She didn't want to dress up, and Tim said, don't make her dress up. and she would also color in church, and you'd hear this pencil like this, and I'd look at her and Tim go, just leave her alone. She's listening. And by golly, she was listening, and she also turned out to be this amazing artist. But I just had to get over how appearances were so important, and just let them be themselves, and not compare them to other people. Man, that's such a big thing. I mean, it still is with me. I have to pray against that. Stop comparing yourself. You're not the skinny little thing you used to be. Just, be this happy grandma. 8 grandchildren. But I still do that. I have to pray against it because it is just a thing that, I don't know, women just go through. That women do. Yeah. But the other thing I wanted to say was just let them have more fun, make things fun. I remember Tim saying, Tim is my hero, as you can see. You can tell. But I can remember being so, worried about the kitchen or the meal. And Tim would just say, go out and play with them. Just go out and play. And of course, fresh air does us all good. But just relaxing and just rolling around on the floor and not worrying about all those external things. And they remember those things. So those are my thoughts.
Any questions, or do you have any ideas about pointing our kids?
Yeah. I also have a little girl who will never dress up, and we've been in these church situations too, and we're from Dallas, y'all, so it's for real, let me tell you. But part of it is it's not so much me, but you have to be willing to lay down other people's expectations of what your children are. And I think sometimes that can pull us back, and then that can be the thing that, that is a motivator. And so I never had a problem with my daughter wearing soccer shorts and whatever free t-shirt came from whatever camp, anywhere she went. I mean, it was fine with me, but it really did bother like my family and just other people, friends, whatever. But I think just being that champion, for your child is like those expectations, that other people want to put on us to be parents are also sometimes just, just as harmful. Like we have to be willing to, just like what like you were saying, it's like if our children are different, we have to be, their champions for those things that are different. And honestly, I would say that's one of the reasons we're at this church. We were somewhere where she just was not going to fit in. She wasn't going to be covered from her chin to her ankles, in a dress and that kind of thing. And she loves it here. So you can kind of see, but part of that is just letting go of how other people think you should parent, too.
One time my mom looked at my daughter's feet, and she said, I think you want to have some shoes on for Easter dinner. And so Emily rolled her, I don't think she even rolled her eyes. I was proud of her for not rolling her eyes, but she and our youngest, Elizabeth, ran upstairs, and she drew sandals. She drew sandals, little flowered, little rows of flowers. And she came down, how's this, Grandma? And she goes, that's much better. So she couldn't even see. Yeah.
That's a good story. Any other questions or ideas? Okay, well, let's talk about just in general mom hacks. Things that you have done that have been helpful, great ideas, innovative thinking. I'll tell you what somebody said yesterday, you guys. She said she keeps laundry baskets in the back of her car for groceries. And so when she goes in and comes out with all the bags, it's so much faster to just take the whole laundry basket full of groceries into the house than each individual bag. I thought that was a great idea. And I've got one too. We did, somebody asked yesterday about chores and how do you start that with your kids. And one thing that worked for us, at least last year, and I'll say this too. Yes, like I said, we don't want you to feel like you have to go home with a list of things to do. But you might try things that work and are great for a while, and then they might not work later. Or you might try something that doesn't work, and it's okay. It's okay. It's okay to let your kids know, too, that, you know what, guys, we're not going to do this anymore. I thought it was going to be helpful, but it's not really working. So let's try something else. That's okay. But what we did last summer that worked for a while was, bust out the teacher ideas. We had popsicle sticks, and we wrote daily chores on the popsicle sticks. Now that they're all old enough to do all the things, I want them all to learn, because they kind of got stuck in, one kid always does this chore, another kid always does this chore, but they really need to learn all of them. And so we just draw. And even my husband, we all would draw one each night after dinner, and somebody would, put away the dishes, somebody else would straighten up the living room, somebody would, scoop the cat litter, or whatever things needed to be done every day. And then we had an extra one that, there were 6 things for 5 of us, and that worked for us for a while. And then we had weekly, actual cleaning things.
I love that you
for a
and your
time.
husband joined in.
That my husband, yeah.
One of the things that I always resented, my parents would have me do chores on the weekend, and I would vacuum and dust and do all that, and they would just sit and read, and I just always felt like, why am I the only one cleaning? And I get it as a parent, I can see what they were doing, but I super resented it.
Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah, and that's the conversation that we have in our house. We are a family, and we work together. It's not my job to serve everyone else. We all have a part, and we all, some people do, but not me. And I tell them, nobody wants to clean, but it has to be done. We have to do this, and we have to learn this. So we all work together, and that's what I always say. Remember, this is a family, and we all work together. We're all going to work. What are you going to do? Okay, what are you going to do? And, of course, the older ones and the younger ones, when we first started chores, my older 2 are 5.5 years apart. So the older one was high time. She was 11 or something. And my younger one was 4. And the 4-year-old's cleaning the toilets, you guys. I'm not even kidding. Because that's what the older sister said, oh, you can clean the toilets. And she said, okay. And it really worked for a long time. She finally caught on.
This is a funny one. We were just talking about this morning. I don't fold laundry. The kids stick it in their drawers. I throw it into their room because I told somebody, because I'm tired of them sticking all of their clean clothes back into the laundry. And so I used to put all their clothes away for them, and I stopped because 1, they're old enough, and 2, I'm tired of washing clean clothes. But I stopped folding laundry a long time ago because they just rip through their drawers and pull everything out. But I'm also super chill, and I understand some people aren't. So it works for me. My husband folds every single item of his clothing. That's fine. He does it. I don't do it for him. He does it. But the kids sort and put their laundry away. None of it's folded. It's fine. They go to school a little wrinkly. It's okay. When they get older, if it bothers them, I'll teach them how to iron. And then they can iron their clothes or fold them. So.
Sweet. My kids' clothes are wrinkly because the laundry is sitting there so long waiting to be folded that it's just wrinkly. It does eventually get folded.
I felt like a lot of my stress as a mom, and still to this day, is around feeding my people. Mm-hmm. And so I recently discovered HelloFresh. I mean, there's a million different ones that you could choose from. And I allowed myself that as a gift. You know what? If one night a week I don't have to come up with the idea of what I'm going to fix, and it's all there in a very pretty bag for me, that is a good gift. So if you're able, maybe gift that to yourself, just to give yourself a break one night, to not have to come up with what the meal is going to be. And then when my kids were younger, I had a really close friend that was my neighbor. So look for community around you, because we would take turns. Monday night, she would make double of her dinner, and I would make double of my dinner on Wednesday night, and we would just swap. So then that was another night. I didn't have to come up with what it was or fix it. I just heated it up and put it on a plate. And that was so huge to getting me through meals. Yes.
We had a lot of conversation yesterday about food and eating and how do you get your kids to eat and that kind of thing. But that's another point too, Heather, is community. Life in community is so important. And what are ideas that you have? And I think it's on some of your questions for today. How can we work together to help each other out? But somebody asked yesterday, well, how do you, my oldest child is 4 and she's getting picky. She's not eating what she's supposed to be eating. And how do you get them to eat? And man, that's just a trial and error kind of thing, honestly. And I'll say my answer for that was every one of my kids sort of went through a phase. of that, where they were eating all the foods as babies and toddlers, and then all of a sudden their taste changed or whatever. It must be developmental. Maybe you guys would know more. But then they came out of it. And then they start to get to puberty, and then they're hungry and then I'm like, oh, I'm just giving them more. I'm like putting more on their plate and more on their plate, and they're eating it every day. And I'm like, wow, we're not picky anymore. This is awesome. So, yeah, and so all of my kids went through a phase, and then they came out of it.
And every mom chooses to go through that phase differently. Some moms are okay making 3 different dinners for their kids, and some moms are like, I was super strict about food. You eat what's on your plate. You don't get anything else. Like, it's just not an option. That worked for us. It doesn't work for everybody. So, like, if another mom does something different, it's really easy to feel really good about yourself because you're like, well, this is what I do, and I think it works better. Like, it's just whatever works for that mom. Like, I don't want to make a lot of dinners, but some moms love to do that, and that is okay. That's okay.
Just make your child, like, don't worry, there's no sacred cow. Like, you know what I mean? Like, whatever it takes, those 3 things have to get done.
Eat, sleep, and poop. She said, you got to eat, sleep, and poop. You have to do it. This is true.
Just whatever it takes. I mean, like you said, if some other mom is not strict about food, like, just fine, you know? Like,
Or if some mom wants to co-sleep and you don't, fine. It doesn't.
had me so scared about that, and then I finally put her in bed when she was 4, and I hadn't slept in 4 years, and she went right to sleep. I was like, this is great, yeah.
Kara, something, and this is going to tie in, something you were saying about how important community is and what can we do to get that village or to get that community around us. And I think one of the things that is so important to building community is being authentic and being vulnerable, because you can't build a community with people that come around and help you if you never admit that you need help, or if you never open up about where your weaknesses, quote unquote, weaknesses are, and where you might need somebody else's strengths. And something as women we tend to idolize is looking like we have it all together. So you can't ever have a true community that will come around you in your hardest times if you're not willing to open up and show where you're not perfect. I'm super passionate about that. Like, if I could have an anthem that I could stand on, that's what it would be. That we need to be authentic with each other.
Preach.
One good point about food yesterday that we brought up was a gal talked about her 4-year-old not eating anything that mom put on her plate. And Linda Quigley was the one who said, it is about control. And I was going to piggyback on that and say, I was a short order cook for the kids, and it drove me crazy until my mom said, you don't have to cook like that. You can do one meal. I started to change, but our kids were athletes, and they ran and swam, and they played soccer, and our daughters both had eating disorders. Our youngest, got in a group of Carmel runners, and boy, they became vegetarians, where you only ate bread and maybe a little bit of cheese, breadsticks, pizza crust, whatever, and then our exactly, like, this is not vegetarian. What? And she started breaking bones. She started getting stress fractures. Her assistant coach said, "Lizzie, you got to eat a little turkey." And she did. She came out of it. Our middle daughter took a much longer time, but she was a nationally ranked athlete, and she went to a school where the coaches pretty much weighed them and really awful stuff like that. But and I can't look back and go, gosh, did I make them that way? I don't think I did. But culture around them, and especially with girls, makes them into creates a. It can be there are all kinds of pressures in the world. But if I would look back and go, I wish I wouldn't have made them sit there for 2 hours till they finished that, or pushed this. And funny enough, Elizabeth wrote me yesterday, and she said, I only remember one time that I got spanked, because we were talking about discipline yesterday. And so I wrote her and waited to hear this. And she said, it was when I was throwing a fit about pizza toppings. And Jacob said, I remember getting... I know he's like, ooey. Jacob wrote and he said, I remember getting spanked, and I was way too old to get spanked. And I remember that time too. It's like, oh man. And so I wrote back, I'm sorry for all those, those wacky things. But Lizzie wrote back and she said, now that I think of it, I was being pretty awful about those pizzas. I probably deserved it. Yeah.
Once they have their own kids, then
Yes,
they
yes,
understand.
yeah.
I was going to say that for me, because I'm mean at bedtime, I clearly like my bedtime. If I make the bed in the morning, I'm a very happy person at the end of the day. So I try to say, if my bedroom can stay like a peaceful place and my car can stay a peaceful place, I function so much better. So I bought one of those shop vacs. They're cheap on, Amazon, whatever. And every week, I just try to make a point to just do a quick vacuum in my van, because we practically live in our van because we're going all the time. So if I could just keep that space clean and then my bed made at the end of the day, I found that I function a lot better. So whatever your thing is that matters to you, just try to make a point to just do maybe 1-2 things that will make you just function better during the day.
Mm-hmm. Right.
If you make your bed, you're committing to not getting back in it.
The maid bed, yeah.
So, like, you could still nap. You just would then make it after you nap. Okay.
Tim makes our bed every day because he says, I know that you like to get into a made bed. So does that set the bar high or what?
Aw, that's so sweet.
I haven't made my bed, I don't think, ever in my life.
Right. And I think what the important thing is, there's no right or wrong. Like I do sometimes. I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's
Kids are getting a glimpse. I don't fold laundry.
Yeah.
I don't make my bed.
What are chores?
Yeah.
It fits. Awesome. How about you guys? Anybody have any questions or any other ideas that you'd like to share? And then we'll give you your small group time.
Baskets in the back. So I used to live in the city, so I had like the trolley, you have to have a grocery trolley. So then, like in the suburbs or in Indiana, y'all's houses are huge. So I use that to cart my laundry around in the house now. So like I just put all the laundry when you'll understand when y'all are almost 50, like you don't want to pick up these huge baskets of laundry. So I stack them on there and then I can push them and it saves your back. And they're like a natural little laundry basket. It's good stuff.
Make the kids do it, Amy says. Oh. Thank you. Anybody else? Any other ideas or questions? Oh. Well, can we thank our panel of moms for today? Thank you, friends. And we will give you some time in your small group to talk about these and any other ideas. And I'll say next week is our last week. It's our celebration week. So we're just going to be together. We'll review our semester. And I feel like Cassie has something else to say.
I was just going to say, if there's any magical mom hacks that come out during small group time, can you let us know?
Don't hold back.
I'm serious.
Thank you.